The hardest decision to make about something you're emotionally invested in is to remove your emotion and make decisions based on the data. What are the data, right? And I think it's a struggle all of us have. It really is. It's a struggle all of us have. At what point do you remove your emotion from making a decision and make the decision purely based on the data? The reason this is difficult is because as human beings, we are human beings, right? We live in the world of emotion. We feel, we love, we hurt, we hate. We project our own prejudices. We are socialized in a particular way, right? We fall in love, and we start businesses because of our passions, and we pursue a particular career because we're really gifted and are passionate about it. But at a point in time, there comes a point in your growth journey where the decisions have to be based on the data. What does the data tell you? One of the hardest things to learn about your growth and evolution cycle is that there are certain things that work earlier on in your growth process that no longer serve you when you want to go to the next stage and next level. And learning the difference, learning how to change your own disposition when the environment you are in has changed is absolutely fundamental. Learning how to remove your own emotion, right? And to approach things looking at the facts and the data is absolutely fundamental. Fundamental. So how do you do that? What might be the various circumstances under which you have to make those kind of choices, where you have to make decisions based on the data and not necessarily decisions based on your own emotions, say? What process could you follow in understanding what is good data versus bad data? And how do you know when a decision is going to be a good decision? Notice, I've now been speaking for probably 2 minutes and I haven't actually dived into what decision we're talking about. I've just said decision. I've not actually given a specific instance because I think that what I'm about to share as a simple rule for success is universal. It doesn't require of you to be in a specific instance to use it. It applies universally. This could be decisions you need to make about where to live, about where to raise your children, about where to send them to school, about where to develop and grow your career. It could be a decision you make about what to do next in your career. Do you take that pivot and do something else, or do you keep tunneling down this path you've been on? It could be a decision you need to make about your finances and where do you invest, the next bonus that you're going to be earning, or whatever the case might be. The decision is not as important as the framework that I want to share with you. Remove their emotion and make the decision based on the data. So how do you remove the emotion? Because that's the hard part, right? We'll get to how to know what's good data and bad data in a moment. But how do you remove the emotion? That's actually the hard part. That's the part most of us, certainly me, struggle with in the early days, right? I want to tell you guys a story. So when I was younger, I used to do martial arts, and we used to go in these camps, right? These training camps. And I'll never forget this specific place we went to for these training camps never had hot water. Never had hot water. And I never understood, why the little society of all of these dojos we all belonged to would send us away on a training camp and the place we go to doesn't have hot water, right? It just seemed to me such like a basic thing. Like if you're going to book a venue and you're going to send, 200 kids and teenagers and adults there, make sure there's hot water. It's not a complicated thing. Anyway, around the 5th time I went on this camp, I was one of the older guys going to the camp, and I'd been going since I was much younger. So anyway, we arrive at the camp, we do, and now I'm old enough that I can start asking some questions. So I said to one of the older senseis, I said to him, Shihan, can you just explain to me, why do we keep coming to this place when they don't have hot water running out of the taps? Like, why haven't you guys told these people who run this lodge to invest in decent geysers, right? Just come on. And he said to me, no, they do have hot running water. We just tell them to turn it off every time we come here. What? Could you imagine that? First, I mean, you'll allow me a bit of a segue on this. Let's be honest, right? And one of the things we do in the VT channel here is, we love poking fun at ourselves. So let's poke some fun at ourselves. And I hate to be the guy who, uses stereotypes to drive it, a particular example, but the stereotype is true. So I'm going to use it. Black people and white people have a foundationally different relationship with the cold. Y'all know that I'm telling the truth. I mean, I look at in my circle of friends, just the amount of hair the average white guy has relative to the amount of body hair the average black guy has lets me know that God knew who was going to be living in the desert, in the sand, and in the snow. God knew this thing. So he designed us, all of us, to fit our environment. Secondly, as a man, and I want to find the right words to say this, but there are certain things that happen to a man's physiology, shall I say, when he engages with cold water. Let's just say there's certain parts of his anatomy that react. They may even contract. Parts of it may even disappear and only to re-emerge later when it's warm and safe. And the gents watching this know exactly what I'm talking about. Y'all know what I'm talking about. So now you must understand, I'm like, hold on. I'm in my teenage years. I've been coming here since I was just before teenager. Been coming to all these camps. Every morning when we got to wake up and take a shower, you freeze. And so all of us step into the shower for like 3 minutes. You know that thing you do when you take the soap and you dip the soap in the water, you pull the soap out just so enough so it's wet so you can lather. Then you lather your arm pads and your armpits, and then the parts of you that sweat that need to be cleaned up, and a little bit of your face. And then you just lather, then you're like, okay, 3, 2, 1. Just jump into the water, let the cold water run very quickly, and you count, and then you're out of there into the and I'm like, hold on, y'all did that on purpose? And Shihan Peter was like, yeah, that's on purpose. What? Why would you do that? I ask him. He says, well, he was like, if you can convince the body to get into a cold shower first thing in the morning, and the body wants to scream and run out of there, and your brain says to your body, I'm in charge, you're going to listen to me. You set up for the rest of the day what's going to happen. Because this is a training camp. We're going to put your body through punishment. It's going to hurt. And your body will want to give up. Your muscles will ache. You will hurt. And we want you to start the day by setting up a relationship with your mind and your body, where your mind tells your body who's in charge. Wow. Just goosebumps. I'm literally just getting goosebumps. Of course, now it's quite the fad, right? Like, take the cold shower in the morning, the ice baths, all of that stuff. I'm going back over 10 years, long before this was even, in conversation. I go back to the point I'm making about the data. So, the first part of learning how to make data-based decisions is learning to divorce emotion from the facts, right? Learning to tell your mind to master your body. A lot of us here are whims of our own emotions. You're angry, your adrenaline flares up, your chest tightens up, your breath shortens as you're breathing, you're a lot more aggressive and you just start firing. A lot of us here are like that, right? Especially when something is personal, something is deep, something touches you in a particular spot. A lot of us react emotionally. Training your mind to conquer your body is a fundamental part of the growth process. Because the place you're going to, the things you need to do, need you to exist outside of the emotion. They need you to be driven by facts, not feelings. So learn to master your emotions. A quick trick on this, by the way. One of the ways of mastering your emotions is try to extract yourself from the situation and ask of yourself to see the situation as a third party. Imagine you were giving you advice. Whatever situation you're dealing with, how would you approach that? That, for me, has been a fundamental shift in how I deal with things that ordinarily would be emotional. Second, so how do you make data-based decisions? Well, you need to know the difference between good data and bad data. And there are, although subtle, very important differences between the two, right? Bad data is generally data that comes with a sense of distortion. Data that was, in the process of acquiring that data, even the way the question was framed, the question itself was biased, right? So, for instance, we're busy here in the firm recruiting, right? And in our recruitment sheet that candidates have to fill out when they send us their profiles and their CVs and the rest of it, there is that part that we've had in organizations for 200 years, where we ask people about their gender. 10 years ago, you would be filling out that sheet and it would say gender, male or female. Today, it says male. And so first, even the way the question is asked now, it's no longer what is your gender, it's what gender role do you identify as? Yeah? And then the answer would be male, female, other. I had a long debate with a professor friend of mine who said, actually, it shouldn't even be male, female. It should be masculine, etc., etc., etc. I was like, wow, that's fascinating. But even the way we're asking that question has changed. And so as a consequence, the data we're getting is different. So the question you ask, therefore, frames the data you're going to get. So ask the right question. If you're looking at a stat, a number, a fact, make sure that that stat or that number reflects and is reflective of a real and good question, right? And a lot of us, I think, take numbers and facts and data and we don't consider the question around which that number was framed in the first place. So you have a child who's struggling with mathematics because you see the results that come out of the school say that your child is in the bottom quartile of their classroom in terms of their performance with mathematics. You would then ask, why is my child bad at math? That would be one way to phrase the question. The other way to phrase the question would be, does my child have all the foundational skills required to be competent at mathematics at that level? Both of those questions hint at a similar outcome, the improvement of your child engaging with math. Both of those questions are asked for different reasons, and so the data points are going to be different, right? Why is my child bad at math? They don't pay attention during class. They're distracted often. Does my child have the foundational skills required to be competent at that level of math? Yes or no? No, why? Okay, that's what we're going to fix. So the question you ask frames the data. So first, make sure whatever data you're dealing with, it's good data. Right? That's very important. And then finally, so how do you make decisions based on data? It's a simple idea of leading by the business case. And what it comes to is this. You've got to ask yourself the question, does this decision move me and get me closer to the outcome that I want? Or does this decision feed a part of my ego, a part of my insecurities, a part of my fears? All of us make decisions based on either one of those two things. And what you want to get to is the point where you can make decisions that move you closer to the goal you want to get to the outcome you want to get at. Make those decisions. Final note. Making decisions based on data is not only difficult, it actually feels unnatural when you do it. It feels quite disconnected. But this is why banks moved away from letting bank managers grant out credit. They created credit departments using algorithms where you would send them your information. They would go into the credit bureau, pull your data. They would anonymize your name, extrapolate your data into a credit scoring system, come up with a number and tell you whether or not you qualify for the loan. Because the banks realized that the branch managers had a bias because they were human, but the credit scoring system doesn't. As far as we know, it might have other inbuilt biases, but at the heart of it, the idea is that the credit scoring system should anonymize your data and simply give you back a yes or no answer based on the quality of the person's credit performance and nothing else. Do you see it? So you want to get to a point then where you can put systems in place in your own life in making important decisions that enable you to remove your emotions from the decision you've got to make. In your own career, it might be about having mentors who give you advice on where to go. In your own personal growth, it might be about having sponsors who bring you into rooms where you ordinarily wouldn't be considered. Whatever it is you do and wherever you want to go next, fundamental. Remove the emotion, make the decision based on data. You'll thank me later. Cheers.